It's time for our big stories. Would you like to let us know what exactly we're doing?
Well, the Vice President is in the World Bank of the NPP.
The Ashanti region.
Yes, we just want to understand what this means for his political aspirations, whether he's going to nominate or announce a running mate.
Right.
And, I mean, all the other issues that are coming up. But stick with us. I mean, the New Patriotic Party's bid to break the AIDS is intensifying as Dr. Bawumia's campaign train hits the Ashanti region. And we have a host of political analysts who are joining us soon to get into the nitty-gritties of what this means. Benjamin.
Well, indeed, we do. We first have Professor Kobi Mensah. Of course, we all know him. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. We also have Dr. Kwame Asante. He's a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We have Dr. John Osai Kwapong, a CDD fellow. And we also have Dr. Richard Amwakon Ba, himself a political scientist and a man who speaks his mind. All of them join us this morning on the conversation. But before I usher them in, let's take a look at some of the people whose faces have become prominent, whom we've been talking about. Let's take a look at some of these people, and then we shall come back to our guests. Quite a number of names have been thrown around. Mm-hmm. Which ones have, stood out for you?
Napo.
The energy minister.
I really want...
Dr. Matthew Opoku Pempe.
He's had some bad press,
Some bad press?
Some bad press? Some bad press. On the back
of bad press since he was education minister back then, even before switching to energy for Yao Osei Duchum to become the deputy and all of that. But of course, he's one of those,
particularly this year,
at the forefront.
Yes, on the energy issues that we were having, and some of the utterances he made got Ghanaians really angry. Yeah. So I want to see how they play this out. His name is curious.
Calling people evil and all of that. But so look at them. One is the Vice Chancellor of the KNUST, and the NDC has a woman candidate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, or Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. Now, she is 54 years, her hometown, Ashanti Mampong. And the focus here is on the Ashanti region. So Ashanti Mampong, and her profession, she's a pharmacist, and I think she's the first female vice chancellor, right?
Yes.
Of the KNUST, Professor Rita Akosia Dixon. People have brought up her name, especially in rooting for a woman to be the running mate. But then we also have the lawyer, Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu. He is the special envoy on climate issues. He is 64 years, and let's pay attention to the age as well. 64, his hometown, Adiabeba in Kumasi. So those are the first two. Now, more women coming up, some interesting names. Eshilawusu Ekufu, Minister for Communication. She's 59, hometown Achemodan. She's a lawyer. Of course, she's also Minister for Communications and Digitalization. Then there is Irina Toshi Ado-Latte. Recently, I saw her with the Vice President. I don't know whether it was World Menstrual Hygiene Day or something of the sort. She's administrator for the District Assembly Common Fund. She's 54, and her hometown is Osu, Accra. She's one of the odd ones out in terms of where she's from. And some are saying, let's go Ashanti region. But she's from right here in the Greater Accra region. She's a lawyer as well. Let's check out some others, sweetie.
Well, we also have Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, who is the former chairman of the Church of Pentecost. He's 69 years old, and he comes from Eduman. That's also in the Ashanti region. And his profession, he's a theologian. I don't know what his unique selling propositions are, but he's also there. And we also have Akosia Frima Osei Opari, of course, a very popular one in there, the Chief of Staff at the Office of the President. She's 77 years old. I think that's the oldest I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think so.
And 77. For a woman, yeah.
She's 3 years away from Mr. President.
Yes, and she's from Womase, and she's a lecturer. Viemwase. Okay, beg your pardon. And she's a lecturer. I think the women on this list will give the NDC a close marking because of the background of Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman.
Right.
But let's see some more names, yeah.
So let's check out some more. Then we
that's
have
the
the men
man.
coming through. Want to take them?
Yeah, so we also have Dr. Yao Osei-Duchum, the Minister for Education. He's 60 years old, and he comes from Jachi. And he's an educationist, of course. Jachi. And then we have Napo. I like to think he's a popular one among. His name has been touted or, leaked out there.
Napo has been, it's been mentioned time and again.
That's Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, the Minister for Energy, and he's 56 years old. Okay. And he's a medical doctor, and he comes from Pache number 2.
So there you have it. Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh in the Pache number 2, where he's from, 56 years. And then his former deputy, now Minister for Education, 60 years. Who gets the nod? Or maybe there would be a situation of matricule and someone completely different could get the nod. We don't know, but we're going to interact with our guests and find out what they think. Now, Professor Kwame Mensah is a political marketer as well. So when it comes to these issues, he's well versed in what this means. Dr. Kwame Asante, like I've mentioned, political scientist, director of the Center for European Studies, and Dr. Richard Amwakuban, a political scientist, a man who speaks his mind. Gentlemen, good morning.
And good morning, Suti, and good morning to my friend, Kobe Mensah. Kobe, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And good morning to Dr. Amwakuban.
All right, so it's going to be a very intellectual conversation this morning, but I can't help it because this was being mentioned. I know maybe for the sake of academia, you've heard of that. I think it is two diametrically opposed matters, but that citizen who is in the Netherlands who says a Dutch passport is worth more than a PhD. I don't know what you gentlemen think. If you have any thoughts, if you don't, we can just move on. Any thoughts on that right before we get into the main matter? Since you are academics, Professor Kwame Mensah.
I think I would defer to
Dr. Kwame Asante.
I've made a lot of it, So maybe Asa, what do you think?
But you've not done that here.
I just want to forget about him. Let's move on.
You don't think he's worth your time, right?
No. At all.
Sweetie, I have said that, a PhD, why someone would get a PhD versus you're going to search for money they are not necessarily, people don't get PhDs simply because they want money. So I find that whole argument.
That there is a misconception. They think you want to make money, and so you want a higher education, and so you go and get your doctorate. But I think these are just learned people who have a craving, a deep yearning for more knowledge. It's not about the money. So, I agree with Professor Dr. Kwame Asante. He's not worth their time. But let's proceed.
Anyway, so Doc, I'll start with you this time, Dr. Kwame Asante. You look at the Vice President and everything that has happened. We have hit the month of June. There are some 6 months to go before the elections, because December 7th. So. What is your reading so far of the MPP and its process of getting a running mate, even before we talk about the candidates? The last time I spoke to former chairman of the party, Peter McMahon, and he said they are not late. They are not late at all. And that Bawumia himself was chosen pretty late on one of the occasions. Your reflections before we delve into the groupings?
Yes, I think that this is a battle that you don't need to waste time, because it's going to take a long time to be able to get whoever you have nominated to get acclimatized with the whole process. And it takes a while. The earlier that person is brought in, the better, so that quickly he comes to familiarize him or herself with the process, and then help the tickets, is important. But they say, well, it's not late. We are waiting for them. But those who are ready are already out there, and they are making inroads. So I think they have their game plan. But for me, where I said the earlier, the better.
Wait, you say they are not late, but for you, the
Yes.
earlier, the better. Do you feel the MPP is late?
I feel that 6 months to time, you should have had your running mate a long time, because when are you going to bring the person? When is the person going to acclimatize with all the processes and so as to support the campaign effectively? Remember that you are not just going to nominate the person, but the person is going to be part and parcel of the whole process of the campaign. And there are certain dynamics that you need to be abreast with and all that. So a little tutorial here and there, and then you need to do a few things. So all these things are as a function of time. So the more you delay the process of whoever that person is in going through these processes. So what are you waiting for? Remember, you are also, your manifesto is not out yet. And all these things are things that you need to do and do it on time. But
yeah, but the main opposition party also doesn't have a manifesto out yet. They do have a running mate, but they don't have a manifesto.
At least they have a running mate. And you realize that one hurdle is closed. You need two manifesto running mates. And they have a running mate. And so they are ahead in terms of the two issues we are talking about. But hey, they have their game plan. So ours will be just the commentary. But we know that they need to bring the person sooner than later, sooner.
Okay. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Richard Amwakoba. Doc, good morning. Dr. Amwakoba, can you hear me, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. We have Dr. Richard Amwakoba on phone. Doc, what do you make as of now? No running mate. Some have even projected, looking into their crystal ball, that maybe in the Ashanti region, that is where the vice president will announce his running mate. But for you, as of this moment, what is your reading of the situation when it comes to the MPP? No running mate as of now.
Well, it's an indication of the disarray of the party from the beginning. The party constitution says the running mate should be picked right around 1 year. Here we are 6 months. We're still making a force of that. The running mate is not just a name that you put on your table. It's a person who is supposed to help articulate to the rest. If you are going around speaking to by then of course, you don't need a running mate. You are supposed to be two people right here, one that used to
Doc,
there you are.
Doc.
Yes.
We have some slight challenges with your line. I'm sorry we always do this. I think it's the weather and connectivity, but if you could just move a little away from where you are and let us try again, speak a little louder for us.
Is it better?
Better, please. Please go ahead.
Okay. What I'm saying is, it takes two people to campaign and more. The two of you will gather your people around you. One goes this way, one goes that way. If the vice president, for example, says something that is not very charitable or has problems with his statement, the other one comes and smooths it over. Now, if you're going around by yourself all this time, what do you need someone for? That's the problem I have. Because it started with the selection of he himself. It didn't go the way it's supposed to, not according to the constitution of the party. And it continues. It's a clear violation of the party instruments of constitutionality. And yet we don't talk about it. It's almost as if this party now, we do whatever we want.
Wait, you're making some very interesting assertions. You say the vice president has done it all up till now, so what is that person going to come and do? And you also say it's a violation of the party's, tenets?
Yes, it's a violation of the party's constitution. You see?
How so?
The articles in the constitution do speak to when the vice president should pick the running mate. You understand? But we will waive anything, anytime we want, just for his convenience. So anybody who the party supports convenience, that is not how you run a party. This is what has happened throughout the whole election cycle. And it continues today. And yet nobody says anything. We are not, should we be talking after we are late? The Constitution provides stable funding. And now we are talking about we are not late. Should you be late? No. The person you are picking must know you. It must be a good fit. It is not one day you are coming here to talk to the person that you get to know, really know the person. Some of them, I'm sure, you know them well already. But it must be a good fit. Sometimes you see somebody from afar, it's different from how he is when you go close to the person. And so you have to work with the person for a while. You have to coach him how to say certain things. All of that, you can do all of that in this short time and be effective? I don't know. Maybe you can do it. Let's wait and see. And some of the people mentioned, I don't want to despise anyone. I won't speak about them. They are all qualified. That's what I'll say. And so good luck to you.
All right, good luck. Let me now bring in Professor Kobi Mensah. And Professor, what I want to find out from you is, do you think this is a strategy in terms of the NPP taking their time to announce a running mate, or is it just a matter of preparedness?
Right. Thank you, Siti, for the question. I think if it's a strategy, then it's a wrong strategy. I mean, my colleagues have actually, articulated. When it comes to political strategy, you can either backload or front load, depending on the situation. So the political market is very dynamic. You want to read, the signs. But let me tell you the reason why I agree with, Dr. Makuba and my good friend, Dr. Ashanti. Now, in the political system, especially in the electoral cycle, usually 3 activities are actually conducted, major activities. One is the formation of the manifesto committee. 2, you're talking about the formation of the campaign team. And then, of course, you have the announcement of the vice presidential candidate. That is when the presidential candidate had been chosen. Now, in most cases, and you can check on our records, the vice presidential candidate should be announced or is announced in order that their team can actually be part of the 2 other teams, which is the manifesto committee and the campaign team. The vice presidential team must be part of that. The vice president must be, the nominee must also be part of these particular teams. You have announced the 2, manifesto committee, you have announced campaign team with no vice president. And that's why Dr. Makuba is saying, what is that person coming to do then? Because that person is supposed to be part and parcel of the manifesto. Granted that perhaps all of these people who are on the list are actually part of the manifesto committee going forward anyway. Maybe we don't know. But the public must know because there's a perceived chemistry. All right? There's what we call perceived chemistry. So even if you have been working with these people over a period of time, and so you know them, and so you have a chemistry with them, what about the people's knowledge of a chemistry between the 2 of you? From the voters' perspective, we don't know that. And so the perceived chemistry, whether there's chemistry or not, is very important because if we don't see that there is a working chemistry between the candidate and the vice candidate, what is going to happen is any small thing, we're going to read meanings into it because we're going to say, there is no chemistry between them. They can't work together. But in actual fact, perhaps you can work together. But then we haven't actually seen that length of, harmonization between the 2 of you. So for me, if it's a strategy, it's a very terrible strategy because you cannot backload when you have a political system like that. 1, the party is not popular. 2, the candidate is not popular. You need a vice candidate, perhaps, who can smoothen, which Dr. Makuba actually said. When you falter, the vice candidate actually picks you up. You're supposed to have a vice candidate that is complementary to you in terms of policy positions, because not all policy is your strong suit. Maybe you are very strong in economy, but not in energy. So your vice candidate can actually mop you up there. But you don't have that, and you're doing all by yourself. I think it's a very terrible strategy if it was a strategy. But I think it's an indication of the division in the party and the lack of assertiveness of the presidential candidate. I have said it time and again, if a presidential candidate can be toyed around by certain party chairmen, perceived power brokers, how could you actually meet Vladimir Putin, for example, at a global, a geopolitical discussions. I mean, you do not have the assertiveness to meet very egoistic, world leaders if you cannot manage your own internal party people.
Is it possible then that these names that have been put out, I mean, most of them are popular and active political figures. Is it possible, I mean, when you talk about perceived chemistry and lack of assertiveness, is it possible that that's their way of building the chemistry so that when they finally announce one person out of the lot, the public already sort of identifies with this person?
It is absolutely not the right way. Okay. I mean, it even brings division because currently, as we speak, the supporters of these people, not necessarily these people, because these people perhaps internally, they know themselves, they know what's happening, but the supporters of these people are going to take it like you have snubbed their person. And so you have very little time to deal with the commotion that will come for people thinking you didn't actually, it wasn't a good faith, you didn't deal with them in good faith by ditching their candidate. Because don't forget, it is mostly the people behind these people are what is important. That's why I use the word perceived, all right? The voters, the basis of these people have to see that you have dealt with their candidate rightly. Now, if you do not do so and you drag it towards the latter part of the campaign, that's going to be another crisis management for you. Why do you want to put yourself in that particular position? Okay. So do really, deal with the cracks and then head on to the campaign.
Okay, let me go back to Dr. Kwame Asante and let me take the conversation to another level. We know that the NPP, their tradition of this Dankwa Dombo Busia tradition, and now that the vice president is in the Ashanti region, what's your appreciation of this tradition as in where we are now? Some of the people we've seen on the list are not necessarily from the Ashanti region. Do you think that they're going to stick with this and choose someone, or must they choose someone from the Ashanti region? And what does this do for their campaign?
Well, actually, I believe strongly that they should choose somebody from Ashanti region. It's a good political strategy because if you look at MPP, their strongholds, they are two, Ashanti and Eastern. And you know the volume of votes in Ashanti region if Ashantis are voting massively, right? So, yes, a candidate from Ashanti is not a bad idea at all. But of course, you can also pick someone from the swing regions of Greater Accra and Central region. But in terms of ranking, I'll put Ashanti first for MPP. Yes, if you get an Ashanti person, you are likely, to all things being equal, to ginger the people up to vote for you. Simply because then at the back of their minds, they know that when that person, the party is able to win the election, he's going to be the vice president. Who knows? One day step into the shoes of the president or been given opportunity to rule as a president. These factors are there, but that is not to say that is the only factor that influences voter choice. There are a lot that can sway this thing completely. But for strategic purposes, I believe Ashanti candidate is the best for MPP. And then they need somebody with a strong personality, somebody who is marketable, somebody who is popular, and somebody who can rub shoulders with any other running mate in the other political divide, particularly the NDC. Okay. So it's a tall order that they need to work that fine line carefully in order to arrive at somebody who is worth his or her salt for this exercise.
Staying on that point, I just want to run this by all of you gentlemen, starting with you, Doc, because you've already touched on it. Will selecting a candidate from the Ashanti region be enough to assuage, to placate the people of that region? Because mind you, I was referencing in the news review how Oseiche Mensah Bonsu had been pelted in Swami with sachets of pure water. You wouldn't expect that. How some chiefs have come out to criticize the MPP. You wouldn't, in my experience, I've not seen that in the Fourth Republic. Some of the commentary, people say, look, it's either we abstain or we vote a certain way. Do you think this will be able to placate the masses in that region just by selecting a candidate from that region?
If you listen to the conversation so far had, the Ashantis, quite apart from the fact that some of them are in this government, they are very bitter. If you listen to the agitation from Parliament as to Ofurata must go and all that, who are those who champion that cause? My classmates and the Apia Kubi and the rest of them. All right. So we realize that Ashanti forces are putting themselves up together to fight for the battle of leadership position within their party. It is no doubt at all. I'm clear in my mind because they believe that yes, Achim have had their turn, and then this issue of Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition, which is also problematic because the issue is that if we are talking about Dombo today, one will be the 10 of, Buzia, or the 10 of, and even other political parties, because that even theory for me is totally wrong. Because if you look at the UP tradition, as they became UP, after the Avoidance of Discrimination Act, all political parties were banned, they all gang up and formed the UP, which is, a group of various political parties, including Anglo Youth Organization, and other groups. So when will be the 10 for other these things? So, but that's another conversation, another day. But the real issue is that it is not only the vice presidential or the running mate slot or the running mate factor that influence voter choices in this country. There are a lot. If in fact, the main ones are the economy, infrastructure development, the fight against corruption, rule of law, unemployment. These are critical ones. Of course, the vice presidential slot is also a special one in the sense that if you look at there are various reasons for selecting a running mate to support the ticket. One, there are 3 or 4. One is that you want somebody who will come and augment the effort of the flag bearer. Okay. You need that person. And then 2, you need somebody with a different skill set who will come and also support the flag bearer. So that is why Nana Akufo-Addo brought Bawumia in. That yes, he is weak in the area of economics, so he will come and then inject energy into that. Go cast your mind back to America. Why was President Obama? Why did Obama select Biden as a running mate? Simply because Biden was so strong in the area of diplomacy. So he wanted to bring him close so that the ticket, remember the president ticket and that of the vice president ticket is one. All right, there is no driver's mate. That's a misconception of the analogy and all that. The best you can be is a co-pilot. And the third factor that they consider is that which other group of people can this, running mate person attract to the party? They consider that, and then above all, they look at what the areas that this running mates can also come in and to support and all that. So these 3 or 4 factors are very, very critical. So you are not just picking anybody, but you are picking based on these qualities that will come and then support the ticket of the flag bearer. Right. Remember, in absence of the flag bearer, if he finally becomes the president and is unable to continue, the vice steps in straight away, right? Because their ticket is won. You don't go through election again. You have elected the president and indirectly elected the running mate straight away. Right. So there are other factors that can influence the voter choices, but this one is critical because you are talking about a group of people who are complaining, they want power, to appease them, and this obviously is the best ticket that you need, because if nothing at all, once they see that type of person who is from their region, their own man or woman, right, is going to ginger them than picking from any other person. This added to the factors I have said, all right, can really sway voters to let you win political power. But that is not to say that other factors don't influence. People consider the economy. The economy is a main determinant of voter choices. They consider because, I mean, a hungry man is always an angry man. And they consider infrastructure development. And that is why you see even in Ashanti region, people talking about roads, where are the roads and all that. They consider fight against corruption because it affects the governance structure of this country.
Right. So definitely
issue of unemployment. Yeah.
So definitely there are other factors, of course, that they will also have to deal with. Professor Kwame-Mensah, same question. Your reaction?
Yeah. Benji, you see, I have kept on several times telling the MPP people the conversation about where a candidate is coming from is non-strategic and non-visionary, and they should desist from it. But they kept on saying, oh, if you don't choose Bawumia, it means that you have used and abandoned. Look, if you want to tell Ghanaians that the party is national in character, it is not by choosing a candidate. That has to be a default position about who is competent to be your leader, not where they're coming from. Now, let me give you a scenario. Now, granted that any of the Ashantis become the vice candidate, and which, Dr. Asante said that, that person inevitably becomes the head if the president is not there, and most likely become the one in pole position, come the next leadership contest. What are you going to get? You're going to get another Ashanti. Now, people are going to refer you to the idea that it has always been the southern dominant. Then your preferred candidate of Bawumia becomes a window dressing. I'm telling you, after this election, Bawumia cannot, unless he wins the election and then he becomes a president, he cannot win the leadership contest of MPP in the next round. He cannot. And if that happens, then it means that it was a window dressing. You haven't actually tackled the issue of perceived acanistic, all right? And I keep telling them that the reasons why you haven't been able to deal with that, because of certain little things that you do that makes people think that you are perceived acanistic. So if you want to solve the acanistic tag, it is not about using Bawumia as an example of you being national. Because in the end, whoever becomes the vice candidate is most likely going to head the ticket. Then you go back to the same conversation. For me, they haven't been strategic. You do not have to concentrate on your leadership selection based on where somebody is coming from. If you say, as I said, Dankwa, Buzia, Dombo, or whatever you call it, what about the Ga people? What about the Evers? It is problematic when you start using these things. And that is exactly why people keep saying you are sectionist. You have to stop using these languages. We are sort of following the Nigerian example that hasn't actually worked for the country. Always talking about North-South ticket. What is that? Persons must emerge based on their competency, based on their contribution to the party, based on their activeness in the political party. And then when they put themselves forward, regardless of where they come from, they should be able to be seen as competent managers of this country by the voters. But if you take the lazy approach by just saying, because we have X number of people here, and because we haven't used these people, so we have to go for it, that's a lazy strategy. And that does not help you. And it will keep having that perceived sectionist position on you. They need to change their strategy.
All right. Dr. Richard Amakuba, the same question to you. We just want to exhaust this. Will selecting a candidate or a running mate from the Ashanti region assuage, placate those who are going to be voting from that region, do you think?
Not at all. There's never been a situation like this. A candidate from this region, Ashanti region, a team from here, pull people to vote. No. Maybe I have just to say to someone, but not as vote their own way. If they like such an end, you have to start. Because this party was born. It's the up. But it's not to say that just...
Dr. Amakuba, I feel really sad about it because we shall call you with a different line just to see whether the connection will be better. Because you are making important points and We can't get the thrust of it. We really apologize for that. We'll try to reach him on a different line. But sweetie,
yeah,
interesting dynamics, interesting thoughts being shared.
Yes, and
I
in
don't know what you
fact,
make
based on the thoughts that have been shared by both Professor Kobi Mensah and Dr. Kwame Asante, I'm curious to find out from both of you, if you may, on the competency level, you have spoken about ranking and all that achievement and what they bring to the party. What are the chances that a woman will emerge as the running mate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? Let me start with you, Dr. Kwame Asante. In terms of competence, in terms of ranking, in terms of achievements, what the person brings on, and the names that we've seen, what are the chances that a woman will emerge?
Anybody who is qualified is fit for this position. Remember, we are looking for somebody first who can assess the flag bearer to, as it were, get votes. And then we are looking for what? Competence, because at the end of the day, you'll be measured based on performance. So you need competence, and then you need popularity and all that, because we are looking at game of numbers. So better competence is number one. So whether male or female who is qualified, fine. That is my position on that. So then you need to go back to what I said. What is the person bringing? Because you are not going to look at the competences of the two, which are the same. No, then it doesn't help anybody. The running mate should bring something different to come and support what the flag bearer also has. And then you need somebody who can also appeal to other groups of people so as to shore up the numbers. And of course, you also need somebody who can also step into the shoes of the flag bearer if he finally becomes the president and he is unable to continue. So you need these things well managed well and all that. So that is why you are now going to look at all these people who is fit for purpose in terms of what we are talking about. Obviously, you look at what popularity of that individual, who is popular, because it's a game of numbers. Apart from the fact that you are talking about, competence and all that, who is popular. And then you want that popularity not within the party alone, but across the nook and cranny of this country, because you are going to draw support from all the people. Of course, you need somebody with constituencies. And when I say constituencies, it's not your home constituency alone, but you appeal to various groups. What are the groups that you can appeal to? All right? We want to see beyond your constituency, home constituency or whatever. And then you need somebody who is marketable. We can sell that person without headache. That means that you are looking for people with less baggage. If you have somebody with a lot of baggage, and then that is going to be the raw material for position to cash in on that and use it against you. So while the campaign is going on, you are answering questions about your records and your background or the baggage. You need to respond that is something that can work against you. But of course, you also need somebody that in the absence of the president or the flag bearer, he has what it takes to steer the party to the final destination. So it's a mix of factors that you need to weigh them very well. So not necessarily a man or a woman, but somebody who can really bring in the votes, somebody who that when elected into office, he can also pair up with the president to deliver on their mandate. And then in the unfortunate situation that the president may not be able to continue, he stepped into the shoes of the president and then, ferry all of us across the Rubicon.
Okay, I'll come back to Professor Kobi Mensah on this same issue, but Dr. Makoba is back with us and he was in the middle of making a submission when the line interrupted. So, Dr. Makoba, please go ahead.
There's an interesting issue relating to this that I think I have to bring out. I heard the chief of Doma making the pronouncement that if Bawumia picks someone from Ashanti region, Bonos will not vote for him. I hope you heard it.
Did you say dogs will not vote for him?
Bonos.
Bonos. Oh, sorry. People. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Bro will not vote for him. So now this is what is called unforced error. You have created a problem I know it's not going to be invested or that. What the chief says, what everybody does. But you don't know. You don't have to have this baggage with you to be talking about Ashanti this and Ashanti that. Ashantis don't vote this way. Now they follow a leader. Who is the leader? All the people there. Who is the leader of Ashanti? Who is a leader of Ashanti? They are all independent people working in the administration in various capacities. So that is not going to change much. But what the chief said is what I want to address. You want Ashanti. Now you've created an enemy. If you vote for Ashanti, we will not vote. What have you done? This has never happened with tribal politics like that. But what the chief said is actually not correct. Because there are times when people should vote according to regions, especially in the parliament when they are picking leaders. It is called caucus. The Ashanti region has 47 MPs. And Blue, for example, has, I think, 12. What is the comparison? And so if the Ashanti MPs vote for you, you will get your legislation through very easy compared to the Blues. And so this is why sometimes the politicians talk along caucus lines. But here, we don't normally vote according to caucuses. We vote according to party. And so it should not come in. This idea of Ashanti, Ashanti, Ashanti. Ashanti, we say, we accept everybody. This is why Mutaka is still MP. And he's in Asawasi. You see. So we are not reading the science properly.
So you're saying that it wouldn't matter where the person
no, if he's
emerges
good,
from.
That's all we want. We're good. That's all we want.
Okay.
That's it. Why is he going to give Ashanti's money? He's going to buy food for every Ashanti? No. We know that you chop your money with your family. You know, but if you do well, it affects all of us. Doing well is not an exclusive ability of Ashantis. And so you should not do it ourselves. As if you vote for Ashanti, and then they say, no, 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 no. Many of these candidates I see here from Ashantis are very unpopular.
Okay, thank you.
I won't mention anybody's name because I don't want to denigrate anyone. But that's the truth.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Makoba. Professor Kobi-Mensah, I'm back to you on the chances that a woman emerges based on competence, popularity, ranking, and all the main, yardsticks that will be used to measure a running mate for the NPP. What are the chances that a woman will emerge?
Well, thank you very much for that. I think that if you look at the chances in terms of the factors that you talked about, I hardly would see, the women on the tickets, coming in. Of course, unless, of course, the candidate, want somebody that he feels comfortable to work with as the measure, which is one of the measures anyway. The Americans will say someone you can share a beer with, If that's the construct that he's using to actually do the selection, then of course it's likely that he could choose a woman, which we don't know. But if you talk about the raft of bases that they would use, especially if you look at the women on the ticket, as Asante actually talked about, what is your constituency? Of course, Frema, for example, very well known within the grassroots of the political party. But I don't think that the general public of Ghanaians really have a taste of her. Obviously, her time in government had been in the office of the president. She had actually been an MP. She had come from the University of Ghana. But the kind of constituency that we think, you would appeal to, whether good or bad, it's very small, So in that sense, you need a lot of time to really.
I think we lost Professor Kobi-Mensah there for a bit. But interesting submission.
I think I hear him back. Professor Kobi-Mensah?
Oh, yeah, okay.
We lost you for 3 seconds. Just go back.
Okay, all right, okay. So if you take Asla Wusu, for example, of course, another woman perhaps much more well-known within the Ghanaian public, perhaps, than Frema, because of the role she's actually played during her third sector assembly work. And then, of course, she's been very frontal with politics in Ghana. But of course, again, the idea of whether the people have a certain love for her. Of course, she's an MP, so she has her own constituency that she governs. But for the general public of Ghanaians, I'm not sure to what extent people would actually embrace it. Perhaps you would need quite a lot of time to warm up to people. And then the professor, i.e. the Vice Chancellor of KNUST, obviously a very important position, an academic, so you would expect a certain rigor, coming into the what do you call the seat, or coming to the seat with. But of course, again, you need a certain period of time to market it. And as we said, it's taken you so long, for you to come to the table with a selection. So I am not sure really whether the women, if we use a lot more of the basis to assess them, would have the chance to do so, in terms of complementing the ticket. However, if the candidate wants someone that they don't want to be more competitive, they don't want to be somebody that could really challenge the authority, etc., then of course I think the women could emerge. But if we have to use the extensive measures, I doubt it. I think it would be a man.
Let's analyze the candidates one by one and look at their merits, demerits, fortes, foibles, and you give your verdict. I'll start with you, Dr. Kwame Asante. So we'll be placing them on the screen one by one, just so you can, we've already mentioned them. I'll just reiterate very quickly. There's Professor Rita Akosua-Dixon, Vice Chancellor of the KNUST. She's 54. And as you deliver your remarks on them, I also want you to factor in the bit about age, because look at the years. I think the lowest I've seen is Prof at KNUST, 54 years. All the others, it goes as high as 77 when you look at the Chief of Staff, Fremose Opare. So there's the KNUST Vice Chancellor. There is Dr. Kokofu, Special Envoy on the Climate. He's a lawyer. Then there's
Eslo
Owusu-Ekufo, Minister for Communications. She's 59. Okay, so Natoshi is 54, right? Then we have Professor Onyina, who is 69 years. And then we also have the Chief of Staff, like I mentioned, who is 77. Which one of these for you, if you had to give a top 3 ranking, who would be in your top 3? Who would be number 3? Who would be number 2? Who would be number 1? And the age factor reflecting the number of young people who are going to be voting in election 2024. Dr. Kwame Asante, let's start with you.
Right. I think when I look at all of them, I'll put Napo number 1.
Who's number 2?
Then the professor, KNUST. And then the third, I'll put Minister for Education.
All right. So give us an explanation why, and factor in your thoughts on age.
Yes. If you look at their ages, for me, age doesn't count a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Biden running the affairs of the state. If you look at
Biden, in a way, is struggling with his health. You know that.
Yeah, I am coming to that. That all things being equal, if the person has good health and all that, he can deliver. America has had a lot of foreign ministers, Secretary of States who were very old, and so is the situation in Britain and all that. Provided you can deliver, for me, age doesn't really matter. We have a president now who is 80 years and is still going strong and delivering. So, but we need somebody. All that we need is competence. The first thing.
Okay. People talk about. So just pardon me. I don't want to come in, but that is what you are looking at. But the young people who will be voting in 2024, they are looking at young blood. Do you think this will still attract them when the age is so far out there?
Yeah, young people don't also shy away from old people who can make sense and who can provide their needs. We did some study in 2016 and realized that age doesn't really matter. They want somebody competent enough to be able to steer the affairs of the state, and that it will rub off them in terms of what? Economic improvement and all that. So does it really matter? You put a young man there who knows next to nothing and he can't deliver to satisfy the interests of the young people. They will be so angry and they would like to chase him out. They want somebody who is competent enough and will be able to meet their dreams and aspirations. For me, that is it. So age doesn't really matter. But you see, let me also state here that research has shown that ethnicity, religion, play very little role in politics. I am not, oblivious of that fact. So when we are saying that people are picking somebody from Ashanti region and all that, for strategic purposes, fine. But if you're looking at picking somebody just in name that you just want to pick, then anybody from any part of this country is qualified. But if you really want to ginger people and make sure that you meet certain demands of certain quarters of the country, which is so important to you as a party, obviously, that is why the choice of an Ashanti is critical. That is not to say that we believe in ethnicity or playing the ethnic card. But if you look at Napo, Napo, number one, in the sense that if the Ashanti factor is what is going to drive the party to look for somebody, Ashanti, to ginger the party faithful in Ashanti region to vote, then what are the other considerations would put Napo ahead of all of them? The Ashanti factor, everybody is qualified. In terms of experience, everybody has. But come back to look at issue of interest and all that. When you are competing, where Napo is coming from as an Ashanti, all right, from the palace, and normally traditional authorities, they don't campaign for people, but I tell you, their role in politics is very, very strong. If you follow Achimwebuakwa politics, Ashanti politics and all that, the Menchia has been a very credible institution and all that. So among Ashantis, if Ashanti is competing and you have somebody from the palace, it's a different story, provided the person is of great quality and all that. But I see that in Napo, there's no doubt about that. Quite apart from that, politics, ethnicity, I'm saying that we don't play the ethnic card. But, always there is ethnic interest that people hold. They will not play that card playing to you, for you to say. But if you study Ghanaian politics, there is an aspect we teach ethnicity in Ghanaian politics. We tell you how some of these things also have, play little role in politics. Napo's mother, remember, comes from what? Achim. The Achim factor within the MPP, that Achim group, will not let power go off their hands as soon as they see exit of Akufo-Addo 2025. They want to also have control. So somebody who has a certain background, an Achim background, will obviously be a better choice for them in supporting the party. They are not playing ethnic card here, but they are telling you they want that interest protected and all that. So they will rally behind him and all that. So for me, that puts Napo ahead of all of them, who are very typical Ashanti people and all that. Apart from that experience, all of them have, they work in different places. The professor, because take it or leave it, I have said already that it doesn't matter the gender. You can be a male or female. All that we need is first, competence, and then two, you are able to attract the necessary vote that the party deserves. If you look at a professor from the university, it's not mean achievement, I tell you, and he has a lot of constituencies. He appealed to academics, then he will be appealing to women's group and all that. That also gives the woman a lot of gravitas and will be able to support the ticket of the running mate. So obviously, look at the fact that women have not, been pushed to this level for a very long time, and we are getting women coming up like this. It really will become a toast of many, especially those who believe that we need to look at the gender issue. So you appeal to gender groups, academics, and then women in general, and then the general masses of the people. So for me, the professor, because I don't know how far he has been at the trenches as a party person, all right? So experience, you don't see much. And that is where Napo comes top. Napo being an MP and all that, former minister, current minister, he has held two portfolios, Minister for Education, Minister for Energy. Look, that's a big one. Remember, in politics, the ministry that you hold will either make or make you. all things being equal, if you perform, all right, if you are certain ministries come to sharp focus because they are big, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy. I mean, these are ministries that are so big and that every home, you are a household name in there. If there is Dumso, everybody knows that it's coming from your ministry. If the light is on, they know that you are doing well this time around, Ministry of Education. So the woman, I would put her at the second position with the Minister for Education currently. Is not a bad candidate. He has done a lot in terms of what his achievement in that area as a deputy and now a full-blown minister, right? And Ashanti, of course. But you realize that one of the things that is going to put him ahead of those below him is the fact that he has handled a very popular ministry, a ministry for education. Go to every home, almost every home, there are people who go to school. And the ministry's name is a household name in there. Right. So really can appeal to what education, people in academia, appeal to what families, you know, because you are educating your children and all that, and they are seeing the work that he has done and all that. And he appears to be somebody with what? Interesting ideas and all that. Of course, Joy FM has also told us that we still have schools of shame in there. So irrespective of all that we have said, there are questions that they need to answer. Napo, for instance, will have to prepare himself as to how he will be able to answer the question of what Dumso in recent time. Because the issue of what Dumso economy versus what 24-hour economy will come face to face with him. And he has to do well to tell us that the issue of schools of shame will confront the Minister for Education, that he needs to deal with this. Of course, we even have schools which run shifts in recent times and all that. So these are some of the things. But for me, if you ask me strategically and from where I sit, my best bet would be this three, and Napo as all.
Professor Kobi-Mensah, what would be your assessment of same? Dr. Ashanti says his ranking, Napo first, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh first, the Vice Chancellor of the KNUST second, Yao Osei-Duchum third. For you?
It looks like, Kwame, you were watching my paper, right? I penned that the same thing. I actually have Napo first, Professor second, and then the Minister for Education third. Clearly, the same basis that Kwame has actually articulated. Now, I say that granted Napo's limitations, he's someone of a drive. I mean, nobody would actually take that from him. He has a lot of energy. He's very frontal. He speaks his mind. Obviously, in elections or in politics, some of those attributes of him could be very problematic because you have image to manage. Not everybody likes a very frontal, personality. And so at some point in time, you want to manage that particular part of you in order that you could fit, appropriately with the political image, political brand image that you would want to have. But nobody would take from him the kind of energy he brings, and then, of course, he's been with the party for so long, right from school days. He actually been forefront of, student politics, obviously national politics, constituency politics. He has a whole base, in the MPP. If you have to close your eye and mention 10 people in MPP, certainly Napo is going to appear. I'm sure even in the first 5, he's going to appear there. So you cannot discount his base in the MPP. You cannot discount his drive, that he brings to his work. But of course, you can also not, you wouldn't, cease to take notice of his abrasiveness, which some leadership expert will tell you that you needed that kind of thing, especially when it comes to management. People will tell you that successful businesses are those who actually have brazen, leaders who can actually speak to your face, what is in their mind. But in politics, sometimes it's problematic. So I think that Napo tops, with these kind of attributes that aside, obviously what I've actually added. Now, the professor, yes, you're going to have a very deep thinker. As you know, as I said, you're going to have different women groups. Of course, the transformation or the transitioning of that expertise. I don't know whether she's actually worked in the political front before, in comparison to Nana Jane. But of course, the kind of competencies that the professorial, candidate is actually bringing on board, you cannot discount it. Very, very deep thinkers, very, very conceptualized in the positions. They will play the thing in their heads. They will play it in a manner that they would find it necessary to actually bring in, if they find that is what they're supposed to do. Very thoughtful. Of course, you're going to have a very little kind of negativities, to throw against them. And that will make it difficult for a negative campaign coming from the NDC side, just like we've seen from the MPP side, being difficult to throw, dirt at, Professor Jane. And so this lady also brings on board that particular buffer, that perhaps the ticket would need to sort of stay out, the attacks that people would like to throw. But you would need a lot of marketing because she hadn't been forefront of politics, in the past. Now, if you take Edichum, no doubt he's actually brought in something new, STEM education. I completely disagree with the way he handles, and I think Napo did fantastically well in education than what he's doing, and I've been very frank about it. I think that he's been very hyperactive. I mean, he's changing calendars here and there, unilaterally taking decisions, and we've heard the educational ministry people and the people in the education complaining about how he handles his ministry. And I think that he needs to change his ways if he's really wanting to actually climb to the top of the ladder, because you couldn't be taking unilateral decisions at your instances that you want. And I think that he talks too much. I think he needs some time to listen and then also give feedback. But every time it's about him, etc. But I put him on third because he's brought in some kind of new conversation, the STEM education. He's brought in some kind of new dimension. But I think that he needs to be very stable, and he needs to actually plug himself into the conventions as opposed to just whimsically doing things. And so I put him on third as well, as my ranking. And right. Let me say that in elections, I mean in politics, just like in other service industries, decisions are made on conjoint basis. We rank order of importance. So it is not only that ethnicity or economy or delivery, etc. People rank in order of importance what they think to them is the best way of voting. And so we couldn't have one dimensional and say this is the most important. Okay. People individually rank their factors. So someone's factor A would be someone's factor C, depending on people's circumstances, etc.
All right, but you didn't touch on the age factor. Do you agree with Dr. Kwame Asante when he says that young people don't shy away from people who make sense to them and will be competent enough to do the
I
things
agree.
that they want?
Look, decisions perceptually are dependent on factors including industry. I don't think it's lost on young people the fact that politics is a higher calling business. Okay. It is not, just selling everything else in town. That the decisions and the managerial things are within your control when it comes to individual businesses. Politics, majority of the decisions might not be in your control. There's a global playing field that you need to play. There's international policies, foreign policies, there are local stuff, so many other factors. Okay. So yes, young people want young people, but they do not want young people who think in a young people way. When I say young people way, I don't mean in negative forms, but young people, sometimes behave in a manner or they take decisions in a manner that when they grow up, you realize that, I shouldn't have actually taken A, B, C, D decision. That's when you have matured. So even when young people are voting young people, they want a young person that is mature in their thinking. So the decision in politics is a higher calling decision. Young people would not just stick by age. They would stick by the depth of your decision making in order that you could demonstrate to them that you would deliver. So it's not just about the numbers. So that's why usually they would defer to an elderly person, because fundamentally, if you're using what we call heuristics, you would say that an elderly person has an elderly mind. They have mature mind, although it doesn't turn out to be the case all the time. But they would definitely defer to a higher person if they don't see the evidences of a young person being mature.
All right. Let's now turn to Dr. Mwakoba. Well, both speakers have said NAPO first, Professor Dixon second, and the Education Minister third. What do you say? Did we lose?
Did we just lose? Okay, we'll try and get him back. Right when we were, throwing that shot at him. An interesting bit in there, and we'll try to get Dr. Richard Amwakoba back and then find out from him, what his take will be. But I have an interesting question for you two, very briefly, so that when we get Doc, we can go back to him. Of the women, if I asked you to rank just the women, what would you say, very briefly? Dr. Amwakoba, Dr. Ashanti, what would you say? If you had to rank the women candidates, which one would come tops for you, and why?
Well, obviously, the professor will lead
Okay.
because he's coming from, he has a whole, wealth of experience, and from academia, these are big brains. And remember, Aristotle, the greatest of all, is always want to guide us that politics must be handled by those who are intellectually fit. It's a serious intellectual exercise. No joker is welcome in there, because you are going to take serious decisions, you are going to think critically and all that. Okay. Quite apart from that, look at it. The university is a microcosm of a country. So when you have somebody who manages that place, then he tells you that, look, we can manage the state as well, all things being equal. So that background is a lot. Of course, if he has also played part in active politics behind the scenes, is going to add up to that. So for the professor, I think that I will rank tops within the NPP, the names that you have put forward to us to consider. I think the second person, I will give it to Osla Kufu. Osla is a very sharp person, very articulate. He has ideas, and he has also been active in politics. He has been in parliament for years. That wealth of experience is there. As a lawyer, he has a certain background he brings to bear on the situation. Remember the constituency she's coming from, apart from gender groups, apart from legal fraternity, apart from Eastern region, which is one of the strongholds of the NPP, all right? And also from the Achim block, I have no doubt in my mind that you are dealing with a candidate which is worth her salt. So I believe that Osla is a material also. If you are ranking, you'll be the second for me.
All right.
The third, yeah.
We have Dr. Mwakoba on. Dr. Kwame, sorry for interjecting there, but
No,
I do
fine.
want to get his, we want to get his ranking of who comes first, second, and third. Dr. Mwakoba, your take.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't think it's appropriate for me to give voters, tell them who to vote for. If they trust my judgment, I'll give it to them. And if they trust it enough and want to do the same thing I did, then that's up to them. But it will not be appropriate for me to put somebody at number 5 or 6 or whatever. The person who picked them think they are all qualified, so he should decide. But there's one thing I want to say. The Reverend Onyina, this is hard for me to say, but I have to say it. You occupy a great office, the highest office, more than president. You serve God. Please, drop out of this race. It's a horse race. It's not good for your image. It's not good for you as an officer. We say that politics and religion do not mix. Just remember that.
You're saying politics and religion don't mix, so Professor Onyina should step aside and that this is not doing well for his image. But at the same time, there are people who have said that, no, we need people with principle, character to get into politics. Then someone who is there is in the mix and you say, no, he should step aside. Why?
No, are you saying that with the religious people, we don't have any people with principles and character?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm also saying that he is one of those people that some could look at, right?
Yes, it's true. He has principles, he has character. That is why I'm saying what I'm saying to him. Keep it. It is more important to be in the service of God clean. Politics is not always clean. If he doesn't know, I'm telling him now. That's all I want to say. But all the others qualify. And so I'll put them all first.
Okay.
There you have it. That's an interesting bit.
He said, if you trust me, then do what I'll do. But you didn't tell us what you would do.
Please.
You know?
I mean, can you give us a sneak peek at least? If you were on the committee to choose somebody, I mean, where would you lean? What qualities would you look for?
The candidate himself should not go through this. He should not go through this at all. We cannot pick for him. You don't know his likes and dislikes. He has mentioned these people. It means there's something about each one he likes. Which one is it? I don't know for sure. And so let him decide. That is how it's supposed to be. Actually, by the time you become vice president, you should know who you are running with. It's not a beauty contest. It's not a popularity contest. For us to say this one is this one is this, you should know. The candidate himself should know. That's it. This is an unnecessary charade, honestly. What is it? Is it a popularity contest? What? Is it an academic exercise? What is it? Religious exercise? I don't understand it. It's not acceptable. So he should decide to spare us the trouble. Okay. That's all I say about that issue.
As we wrap, sweetie, I do not know. I want to go off the trajectory just for a minute and wrap. It's political, but it talks about leadership moving forward. You must have heard, gentlemen, about the parliamentary candidate for Amenfi East and what he said about beating up soldiers who tried to intervene when it comes to Galamsey activities. I don't know whether you can give me 40 seconds each of your thoughts on that development. Dr. Kwame Asante, you're first up.
I think if what I'm hearing is anything to go by, it's unfortunate. Because this is the war that this country is fighting with all our resources to get it out of our system. Look at the effect of Galamsey on production of what? Food, on production of cocoa, and then on health. Look at the consequence that we have from these illegal activities. And then what is the country has not even avert their minds to. The issue of what our neighbors, how we pollute their water bodies, sooner than later, they are going to take us on and all that. Look at, kidney problems that we have, which a lot have been attributed to the fact that we have poisonous substances in our water bodies and all that. So for somebody who is holding a political office and to urge people along this negative path, I believe that is just what he did is nothing but a wrong move. This type of, people should not be encouraged to hold political office because, look, all that they want is to have political power. It doesn't matter how society survive or not. But for me, anything that doesn't gel well with what or link up to the total liberation of the people economically, politically, is not worth pursuing. I believe that if that is what the man is saying, I think the security people must be able to talk to him. And then let us, we are not joking, because today, Galamsey is prescribed by law. So if there is somebody there who is saying that, is doing something to undermine the law, obviously, is nuisance to the society.
Professor
Nuisance to society.
Yeah. I mean, Benji, you see, I don't know, we call something hate speech, all right? Now, this definitely qualifies as a hate speech. And you see, when we say that we need leadership, all right, we expect leadership. That's why I always say that, yes, you might not have control over the economy because of external shocks, but there are things you can do for the people to really see the leadership in you. The president, obviously, could actually intervene in this and say that you're making my work difficult. How is it that someone makes a pronouncement like this and every institution that is responsible for keeping peace is quiet, and the police go about arresting others who do not or are not supposed to be arrested? All right? You have someone who is actually inciting, that military officers or officers of the uniform must be beaten up. I mean, the last time somebody did that incite or somebody actually incited the society, we know what happened, all right? A certain journalist died. And you have people in government quiet, you have security agencies quiet, you have so many other stakeholders quiet. How is that possible? How does that actually show leadership in the country? So for me, we do not even have to discuss it by now. This individual should have been dealt with. I mean, the state should have actually taken measures to let people know, especially us going into elections, that utterances such as this cannot be tolerated. But we're in this country. We're watching these people make utterances. And as I said, if indeed that's what he said, I think that we shouldn't even be discussing it. By now, we're discussing, other issues related to why he did that, etc. He should be picked up.
Should such a person contest in an election to become a member of parliament?
We should even take measures to sort of serve as a deterrent, that he can qualify, because you cannot be at that position and to be responsible.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Dr. Asante, just a quick one. Should such a person contest for an election to be a member of parliament? Just quick thoughts.
You can contest, but I believe that any person who does not look at the general interest of the country and you look at your own parochial interest, you are not fit for purpose. And for that matter, people should vote you out.
Final words, Dr. Richard Amwakoba, on that same point, this parliamentary candidate for Amenfi East.
Where he's coming from determines his anger and determination to stop this menace. And it is a menace. It has gone on far too long. The president keeps pronouncing, we will do this, and we will do that. He comes to Kumasi, to go back and forth. He crosses the Brim River every time he comes to Kumasi by road. What has happened? Are we serious? That's how I see it. Frustration can make you make such statements. What has not been done? And still, the menace is still there. So for me, I leave it up to him. I wouldn't say things that way. But maybe his anger propelled him to say that.
Anyway.
But we have to say, as a nation, enough is enough. We've gone to Galamsey. Okay. We have not saved our water bodies. All of a sudden, we regularize everything. The minute Galamsey brought is now legal. What is this? Are we serious? I'll leave it at that.
It's been a conversation.
There's been some reported, I don't know for a fact, but some people have said that the NPP, the party's divided, right? And so what I'm looking forward to is whoever is selected as the running mate, that's the person holds the potential to unite the various factions within the party.
To be the cement.
I think they need that, if indeed the party is divided. But those are just my 2 cents on this matter.
So those who joined us, Dr. Richard Amwakoba, he's a political scientist. He's a member of the MPP, and he joined this conversation. We also had Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies. And again, we had Professor Kobi Mensah. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. He is a political marketing analyst or political marketer as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
We wish you same.
Yeah.
Well, we're also staying on election
Wait.
2024.
Give me your ranking. Give me your ranking.
Ranking? I don't have a ranking.
No? So you're siding with Dr.
I mean,
Mapova.
I would probably, because of the political landscape and everything, I probably would have favored some of the women, but I don't want to say anything. But for the topmost candidates, especially the men, I have too many negatives about some of them, which is why I don't want to, because I could peel them like onions in terms of some of what I know, even in terms of temperament, in terms of performance, and moral turpitude in some instances. And I don't know whether I want to. I don't want to say anything on that. But I think if I had to say something, maybe one of the women. I don't know, just because of.
Okay. That's okay. Let's go.
Well.